Hi, this is Don, KJ6FO. In this video, we'll explain how to decode Flying Squirrel One telemetry data. Flying Squirrel One uses a data protocol called Fast Simple QSO or FSQ protocol. To start with, you have to install an FSQ decoder. I use a program called FSQ call. You can also use FLDigi, but I'm going to show you real quick how to get to the FSQ call software. I will put this link in the bottom of the description below the video. There's a download link. You download it, install it. This is your typical ham radio sound card type program. Very simple to install. Once you've got it installed, I'm going to start it up. You will get an error message most likely. FSQ call is expecting to talk to your radio through the serial port of your computer. However, I don't have a serial port or connection to my radio via serial port, so you'll get this error. Just dismiss it, it's okay. It also wants you to then configure that interface. I'm not using it, just cancel. It's okay. You're going to get those two dialogues every time you start up. Just okay, cancel. And then this is the FSQ main window. To configure your sound card, you click the sound card menu, select sound card, and find your sound card located here. My audio setup is a bit complicated, but it's already set up. I'm going to leave it the way it was, but you should be able to find your sound card output there. And once it's up and running, you'll see a waterfall display. Now this is all black because there's no signal coming in, no sound coming in yet. I don't have the radio on, so let's turn the radio on next. I'm using SDR Uno with an SDR play. I'm going to start the audio and you'll hear the static come in here. Here we go. Flying Squirrel uses 28.140 megahertz upper sideband, so you have to have a radio interface to your sound card that can receive on that frequency in upper sideband. Let me minimize that, and you can see now the waterfall is showing a lot of static. I'm getting some false decoding over here because there's a squelch setting that's too low right now. I'm going to set it closer to 0. That stops the false decodes. Just clear that out so to make it display a little bit cleaner. Okay, so FSQ is ready to receive. Our radio is tuned and ready to 28.140. Now, Flying Squirrel and maybe a little off frequency as it goes up in the altitude, the temperatures will drop, the oscillator on board will drift a bit, so you have to be prepared to fine tune. Your radio also might be slightly uncalibrated, so in any case you're going to have to prepare to fine tune. I have Flying Squirrel here at my desk. I'm going to power it up, and in a few seconds we'll start seeing a signal. Okay, and there it goes, and there you hear the tone. You hear a 5-second tuning tone, and the goal is to get that line right below 1400. Now I took a little bit too long because I was going to talking there, so let me stop it. I'll restart it, and then we will fine tune our signal here. So I'm going to go up to SDR Uno, and we're going to move that up till it's just below 1400. That's about as best I can do. And then you see a series of tones that they're changing, and you'll start to see the decode of the telemetry over here, starting with the balloon call sign KJ6FO/B. It's followed by a checksum, that C2, that's my call sign checksum, sending the message to everybody, all call. This is an all call message, and then this pound bracket fs1.txt is an instruction to the program to record this to a file called fs1.txt. And then the telemetry data follows. The telemetry data is documented on the site, and really quickly there's a baud or a sequence number 1, a baud indicator. 0 is 6 baud. FSQ can have multiple baud rates. Then 478.60 meters in altitude. That's my altitude here at the home. 25.7 degrees Celsius. And then air pressure in actually hectopascals, even though we use just P for pascals, but the measurement unit is hectopascals. And finally a check digit. You may have noticed while that was decoding, we got to the end and it was a clean receive. This message RX light came on. If I click on that, it'll open up my editor, and there's my telemetry data. Flying Squirrel will send out telemetry data every minute, so we should be getting a second message here pretty soon. It alternates between 6 baud and 2 baud. So that first message was 6 baud. This is the start of it. The next message at 2 baud. We have that 5-second tuning tone, and then here we go. You can see the tone starting to shift. It's very slow. Slower baud rates lend themselves to better decoding under weak signal conditions, and one of the experiments that we're running on Flying Squirrel One is to see, does it make a difference if we slow up the baud rate? Is it going to help us decode? We're going to get more or less the same message format, except for this will be message number 2. So once we get past all the preamble here of the all call and the instruction to record it to fs1.text, we should see a 2 for the second message. 2 baud is very, very slow. I think the transmission is something about 1.5 minutes as opposed to maybe 30 seconds at 6 baud. So there's our message number 2. 3 indicates 2 baud. So that tells us, message 2 is going to be at 2 baud. We'll get more or less the same altitude. There might be some noise in the sensor. Yeah, it changed by 1/10 of a meter. There is some noise in the data, very slightly, and the temperature went up slightly as well. And then we'll get the air pressure, which also will be different. The altitude is calculated from air pressure temperature based on assumed sea level pressure. And finally, we'll get the last check digit, and if all was received well, our message RX light should come back on. And it did. You also notice over here in this window there's an acknowledgement message. The FSQ protocol tries to acknowledge that I've received your message. Flying Squirrel One is deaf. It doesn't have a receiver on board. It's transmit only. So this transmitted message won't be heard. So it's best to disable your transmitter so that you're not sending the acknowledgement out. It's not necessary. The Flying Squirrel's not going to hear it. Alright, I'll click again on the message RX and we'll see our second message was received. Flying Squirrel will continue to every minute alternate between 2 baud, 6 baud transmissions reporting the data until the end of the mission, which will be most likely, some kind of a failure of the payload itself, or it crashes to the ground. Ultimately, a high altitude balloon will come to the ground and probably cease transmitting around that point. Or the battery wears out, which will be about 23 hours or so after the launch. So I hope this was helpful. If you like it, please click the like button. If you're interested in knowing more about the Flying Squirrel program and future missions, subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much. This is Don, KJ6FO 73s.